Just a sec. Hello and welcome to this guest seminar with my good friend Harry Higgs.
How's it going?
So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about improvisation, but before we do that, we're going to have a little jam.
Let's have a little jam.
So what key do you want me to play in?
The key of C.
Key of C, hot damn. What kind of groove do you want?
Something funky.
Something funky. All right. All right, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Are we getting audio out there? You guys hear?
Yeah, so let me know if you're not hearing anything. Just type it in the chat roll. Yeah, let's see who we've got watching. So I can see that we have Bob, we got Steve.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Bob.
We got Tony. We got John Trainer.
Hi, John.
We have, who else do we have watching live? We've got Ed from California.
Hello, Ed.
All right. So Steve says that we've got it loud and clear. We've got Gina watching. I think Gina's in California as well.
Hi, Gina.
This is very, very cool. So John T is saying, good to see you again, Harry. Your new hairstyle looks good.
Thank you very much. There's a story about that.
Excellent. We got Kenny G from Canada.
Oh, what's happening, Kenny G?
All right. So, Harry, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about tonight?
Sure thing. Well, my name is Harry Higgs, and I've been playing the guitar for, how many years now? 25 years? 25 years.
I know it's surprising that he's old enough to have been playing that long.
And I think I was taken by improvisation at quite an early stage. And that all happened by trying to play along with my favorite music. So that's kind of been my passion since really getting into music. So I thought maybe it might be a good time to start imparting some of the lessons I've learned over the years and some of the mistakes I've come across. So yeah, I thought it would be a fun lesson to talk about paradigms, the way that you think about improvisation on the fly. And some of the ways and strategies that you can make it a little bit more fun and a little bit more interesting, but also stay within quite a safe space. So yeah, I thought that's what we'd talk about today.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Jim watching in California. Hi, Jim. Good to see you.
Hello.
All right. So what do you want to start with?
Okay, so the main thing is being able to structure a solo. So what I've done is I've lined out a few ideas that I sort of they're my go-tos if I try and simplify any of the thought processes that go on my head. This is kind of where I begin. You're going to be my guinea pig today with a lot of this stuff.
All right.
And the first point, this is kind of the easiest way to start sort of creating your own licks as you're doing it, as you're playing, as you're improvising, and it's called rhythmical mimicry, where you take a really familiar melody that you know, and just completely ditch all the notes, and you're taking just the rhythmical part of it. And I've written 2 examples down in the handout there, and the first one that we're going to use is "Smoke on the Water." So now we all know that. So really easy rhythmical idea to steal. So we're gonna try that. I'm gonna play a bit of a 12-bar blues, and Tomlin, if it's possible at all, I want you to start by playing the actual riff.
Okay, so I'm playing a C harmonica here.
And I'm playing in the original key of G.
Yeah, so I'm playing in the key of G in second position.
Yeah.
So the original riff for "Smoke on the Water."
Keep it going again. Last time. Okay, so it sounds, you're directly stealing something by doing that, because you're playing the entire riff, and it's so recognizable that you couldn't necessarily get away with that. Although it sounds good because it's all in key, it's going to work. But what we want to do is just take the rhythm part. So we're going to do that again, and you have the freedom, Tomlin. So you're going to still play the same rhythm, da ba 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 dum, but not those notes. You can play whatever notes you wish using that rhythm, but not the riff. If I hear you do this,
okay,
that's no problem. All right. So the only thing that you need to try and think of when you're improvising this bit is just have that rhythm set in your mind. And the way that I try and disassociate the melody and the rhythm is I'll hum, well, not even hum. I'll think of the melody in my head. I'll sort of sing it in my head, if that makes any sense. And I'll try and ignore what I'm hearing from my instrument. All
right,
but yeah, just give it a go and see how you go. I'm still stick to that rhythm that I just played, and I'm still doing a 12 bar. So go for a full 12.
Okay.
All right, and that rhythm would happen 3 times for the whole.
All right.
All right.
Cool.
1, 2, 3. And... You get it. It's a little tricky.
It's hard.
But you get it. But now it doesn't sound like "Smoke on the Water" anymore.
Doesn't sound like anything.
But you've already, even if you don't follow the rhythm exactly, you've not made a mistake. Not at all. You've just done something different, and it's even less predictable then.
Yeah.
Which is what you want.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of improvised within a parameter, and you've discovered a happy mistake.
Absolutely.
Which has been cool.
Absolutely.
Can we try that again? I can do better.
Well, we're going to try it again, but now I'm going to try and introduce another factor into it. So you're keeping it very simple melodically, which is good. It's fine. But what I want you to try and do this time to make the idea a little bit more sophisticated is when I play a chord change, when I play the 4 or the 5, cater to that a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. Not a huge amount. You can just a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can I just really quickly explain to anyone who's watching live, also not if you're watching playback. So the notes that I'm going to outline for the chord changes I'm going to stick to root notes. So that's 2 draw for the 1 chord, 4 blow for the 4 chord, and 4 draw for the 5 chord. I might also do that in different octaves, but those will be my target notes. And then I might, if I'm feeling a little bit braver, throw in some arpeggio tones as well. But that's the basic idea.
Yeah. Cool. Ready?
Yep.
All right. 1, 2, smoke in the water. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wonderful.
Did you hear? I very nearly hit the riff at the end.
No, but that's it. That's the idea.
Mhm.
So you've just gotten through 12 bars of like there's a reasonable amount of notes in that. It's interesting as well because you've introduced a rhythmical idea. It doesn't matter that you've taken it from something else. It's more the fact that you've really got a strong rhythmical outline. And then where you decide the notes go, or what notes you decide to play, that's completely individual to you, but you have the safety of playing something musical already.
Mm-hmm.
You know that rhythm is musical.
Yeah.
You know it's appropriate. So that gives you all the freedom to play whatever you want. Melodically, you can play whatever you want.
I like it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We can try that with another idea if you want.
Yeah, definitely.
So the other one I wrote down is the theme from The Simpsons. Right. So don't worry, I'm not going to make you play
Don't
that.
make me play that.
You're not going to have to play it. What we want is that rhythm, because the rhythm for that is really interesting. Bum, 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 ba-da, ba, ba, ba-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, ra-ba-ba-ba.
Something like that.
Something like that. That'll do. The interesting bit happens more at the beginning anyway. So I'm even gonna. I'll try and stick to the same groove that I used for the Smoke on the Water example. Like tempo wise, it works. Even if it was a little bit slower, a little bit faster, so long as you've got the melody in your head and you're using that rhythm at whatever tempo the track is at, then you're safe.
Cool. So I'm thinking about this, just thinking ahead. I'm going to cut the melody down just a tiny bit so it fits into that 2-bar.
So
phrase.
Okay, here's the interesting thing. If there's a bit that you like more, or that you feel settled in quite quickly, stick to that.
Cool.
You don't have to do the whole thing.
Cool.
Because there'll be one guy in the audience who recognizes it.
Yeah.
Not that that's a big deal, but you know what I mean.
Okay.
Right, let's give that a go.
Sweet.
All right. So, Simpsons, keep that in your mind.
Okay.
Let's go for another 12. And 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very cool. Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Because it's funky. It's really funky, and it's not sort of the predictable rhythms that you'd normally go for. Can we do that again? But this time, avoid playing the ascending.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum. You did that. You went something like that. I mean, because then it's too close to
too close. Okay.
too close to the bone. All right. So one more time, another 12, please. 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Cool. I can hear all of that coming together. Very nice. Okay.
Got some homework.
Yes, you do indeed. So that's rhythmical mimicry. I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was good.
As well.
Okay.
Can I just very briefly
Yes, of
interrupt you?
course.
I'm not sure if we said, but there are notes that you can scroll down and download in PDF form. So it's a good idea for you to take notes while.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yeah.
But there's also a handout with all of the main points that he's going over tonight. So you've got that as a reference.
Well, since you mentioned that, before we carry on, it is a good idea to take notes just because of the fact we're jumping around so many different ideas and that, and we're probably going to end up coming up with quite a few more than what's on the page there. The goal here isn't really to take exactly what we just did there, like just work on The Simpsons and smoke on the water when you're practicing. Pick anything you want. Anything that you can draw some sort of inspiration from this is good, even if it's just one thing. There's enough to work on with rhythmical mimicry for a while before even tackling the other stuff. But of course, there's a few more things to go through. Cool. Happy to move on?
No, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So the next we're doing the complete reverse. So what we want to do now is we're going to take the melody of a familiar song and completely get rid of the rhythm. Well, not even get rid of the rhythm. We're going to change the rhythm so it's no longer recognizable. And I thought a nice example for this, especially for harmonica students, would be Bring It On Home.
Sorry, I can just see George has said, Tomlin, can I put you on the spot and ask you to do third position on the song? We can try.
On Bring It On Home?
So what key are you doing it in?
G, is that okay?
G.
Is that the standard? What do you normally do it in?
Normally do it in E, but
we can do E.
No, for third position, because I've literally just broken my D harmonica, so I can't play third position on that. So we'll do F. Let me just make sure that I'm in the right place. Okay, I think I can do it.
Yeah.
Bear with me if it's gross.
So this is a question to harmonica people. So does that mean you're using a C harmonica?
F harmonica.
An F harmonica. Even that sounds difficult to me. I don't know what you're doing.
George wants me to do third position on Smoke on the Water. Maybe at the end. It's really easy to do third position Smoke on the Water. I cover it in advanced intermediate, so you can have a look at that.
Awesome. So does that mean you can play Bring It On Home in your happy place position, if there is such a thing?
I'll play just because it's major and it's very major. I wouldn't normally play major pentatonic stuff in third position. I'll explain later if anyone's interested. But we'll come back to the third position, George. Right, let's try that.
Okay.
So you want me to play the actual rhythm, the actual melody?
We're gonna play the head.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. If I remember the chords, I do. All right. 1, 2. 1, 2. Sorry. Okay, lovely, nice. Okay, so let's not take the entire head.
Okay.
But let's take the first 4 bars. So. Actually, next bit as well. Perfect.
Okay.
So let's do that. So that's a really nice set of notes. So I'm going to play a slow blues. So not the Bring It On Home to me thing. And what you want to do is you're taking the same exact note order. Rhythmically do what you want.
Okay.
It might take a little bit for you to get out of the Bring It On Home to me thing.
Okay.
But the mission is to enjoy the note choice,
Sweet.
not the rhythm, not the original. All right. So I'm doing a slow blues in G.
Cool. Can you take it from the 5?
Okay. All right. That sounds great. So Bring It On Home to Me has some really sweet note choices in it, and that's kind of what you sort of took from that. You want to what's the word I'm looking for? Capitalize on somebody else's good work.
Yeah.
And by taking that, there's nothing harsh in that. You know, you don't have any of those blues notes in there. It's just nice major work. So that's a really good place to start at the beginning of a solo. We'll get into why later on. But having sort of a strong melodic idea, not necessarily rhythmical, means that you start intriguing a listener early on.
Smart.
Yeah, I think so. I think so anyway. So that was a choice for me. Is there a melody that you have in your head or something that you use? It doesn't have to be major or anything like this. You can pick anything you want.
So I often get asked about slightly weird melodies, like non-blues melodies, and putting them into a blues context. So maybe something like Amazing Grace.
Okay.
And I always think that Amazing Grace is just, it's got such beautiful note choices that it works brilliantly in a blues context. So like if you took that's the basis of a solo.
Yeah.
So that's one that I would really spend time working on. Anything that has a very strong, any melody you can whistle easily.
Agreed.
That's
very much agreed. So the whole idea of this is improvisation. So you've just thought about this on stage and you're like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to use the notes from Amazing Grace. Okay, so we're going to do that now. And okay, so contextually speaking, it doesn't matter if you change it.
Yeah.
You want to borrow as much as you can to begin with, to make it easy to start developing some ideas. But you know, you have the skeleton of the melody there. All right. Thanks for doing this, by the way. Must putting you on the spot constantly.
It's all good.
All right. So, are you okay with the same slow blues?
Perfect.
I'll take it from the 5.
Oh yeah. You can take a turnaround if you want.
Good. How did that feel?
Felt good. I mean, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And that's when I think that's an important thing to remember when you're practicing improv. Practicing, you will be thinking.
Yeah.
When you're playing improv,
Mhm.
you shouldn't be thinking. You shouldn't be having thoughts that are quite that conscious.
No, not necessarily. Yeah,
That's where the practice is, so that you can switch off when you're doing it.
exactly. Let's move to the side a little bit. How do you practice your improvising?
Okay, that's a great question. So it's I always have an idea that I'm working on. So either an approach or a lick, or a specific thing that I want to add to my vocabulary. So, for example, I feel that I'm a pretty strong player in the kind of dark minor blues scale territory, but I'm not a very strong player in the sweet major pentatonic kind of territory.
Yeah.
So for the last few months, all I've been doing is, well, for starters, just running the scales.
Yeah.
In a musical context. So I'll put a backing track on and I'll play up and down major pentatonic scale. And then I'll hear something within that scale. I'll hear how a note sits over a chord and I'll think, oh, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I'll repeat that. And I'll play around with that little idea and see if I can turn it into a motif.
Definitely.
So yeah, I'll always have a strategy when I'm practicing my improv.
Yeah.
I do quite often also record improv to then listen to retrospectively and make a list of the things I like and make a list of the things I don't like.
A lot of my favorite licks I've discovered by listening back to things that I've done and played something that I didn't really think of consciously, and then I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't know I could play that. So it is a really good way to sort of create your own ideas by recording yourself practicing. One of the ways I like to practice is like I'll focus on, in terms of navigating over chord structure. Somebody at the beginning asked, who was that asked at the beginning about
Bob
playing
about
changes?
arpeggios, yeah.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna veer off track a little bit to talk about this because it's part of my practice routine, and it might be helpful to some of you guys out there. So when you start improvising, I'm assuming that everybody starts with a first position blues scale, whether that's a major or minor.
Second position blues scale.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking guitar. Got guitar head on. All right. So yeah, and that kind of works nice enough over an entire chord sequence, even over the 5, even over the 4. That's where guitarists start as well. So when I first started practicing improv, I worked on sequences and things like that, and that's all in the same box of notes and that. But when I started trying to learn how to play over changes, which, happened quite late. I didn't have a teacher saying, oh, you should really try this. I kind of figured out why I didn't sound as good as a lot of other guitarists, and it was that. So what I then started to do was, within the context of, let's say we're still sticking in G, I would try and either keep a drone of the 4 of G, so that's C, but I'd still stick to around the scale. Around the scale, the same scale that I would use
for grab a guitar?
Yes, please, for my 1 chord, or that scale, the blues scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want me to play
a C?
A C.
I would like
a chord or just a root note?
A chord is fine.
Cool.
A chord is fine. So what we'll do is we'll play 4 bars of the 1 chord. And then I want you to change to the 4 chord
and stay on it.
Stay on it.
All right.
Okay. And then I'll kind of show you what I mean.
Cool.
So let's just whatever you got.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's killing you, isn't it? You want to go back to the 1?
I'm good.
Okay, so by what you do there is that if we just started that exercise in C, it would sound really weird.
It would feel like C.
It would feel like C, but I'm playing not the right notes.
Yeah.
Or not focusing on necessarily the right notes. But what I was doing, I was just chucking in the major third of the 4, which in this case would be an E.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be the 2 blow.
2 blow.
In second.
So add the 2 blow.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still have the mindset of playing in G the whole time.
Yeah.
Because if I did the change of starting to play the C blues scale, which should technically work, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work when you're playing in G.
No.
Not as well. It sounds weird. It sounds like you've literally picked up a different instrument or a different tuned instrument and started playing with that. So contextually, it's a bit
Should
odd.
we demo that with harmonica?
Yes, please.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, Harry's going to do exactly what I just did on rhythm. I'm going to start on the 1 chord. We're playing in key of G, so I've got my C harmonica in second position. Then he's going to go to the 4 chord, but I'm going to carry on playing, thinking about what my 1 chord is, what I'm playing in the key of G, but I'm going to add in as not as a focus note, but as a note of interest, the 2 blow, which is a note that's specific to the 4 chord.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
1, 2. Lovely. Yeah.
So very harmonica specific thing. What I'm thinking about there, and what the way I resolved is a lot of my phrases would have featured the 2 draw whole step bend, right? So that's the flat 7. And instead of playing that, all the phrases where I wanted to play a flat 7, where I wanted to play the 2 draw whole step bend, I played the 2 blow.
Yeah.
Right, which is the 6th.
Yeah.
In second position, but it's the 3rd of the 4 chord, and that means that I had that very 4 chord feel.
Yes.
And then when I wanted to get the 1 chord feel, even before I hit the root note of the 1 chord, I switched to playing the flat 7, which feels very 1 chordy.
Yeah.
That was a bit kind of inside baseball, but.
Sorry, we got a bit techers there,
Yeah.
but why not? It's definitely something to think about in terms of like developing playing over chords, and I hope some of that answered.
Yeah, so John T is actually asking, are you repeatedly playing over the 4 chord just to practice that particular change?
Not practicing the change, practicing playing the 4 chord. So just if you constantly think about leading into the next chord or leading into the 4, that's going to limit what you can do. But if you practice just playing it as the 4 continuously, you will develop phrases that work for that.
Yeah.
And I think it'll end up being a much smoother transition later on, as you're playing the change, where it's a click. You already have all the bases there. You're not thinking, I know 3 licks to play over the 4 chord.
Yeah.
You've already developed a voice over the 4 chord.
Yeah, I think if you think about just playing the change versus playing actual chord, you end up with. Do you want to just play me 6 bars of a 12 bar, like the first 6 bars? Well, you end up with something like this.
3, 4.
Where there's nothing wrong with what I did.
No, it sounds great.
It sounds great, but what a lot of players tend to do is do that every time.
Yeah.
And I just did the root notes of the 4 chord, and it's not showing that I've shifted my thinking much outside of, you know, the 12-bar blues. I've not thought, right, I'm now over the 4 chord and I can play lots of interesting things outside of, I'm just thinking 4 chord.
Absolutely. Tell you what, this actually goes into our next actual planned discussion here,
Excellent.
which is the repetitive phrasing bit, where you might actually be able to incorporate some of this idea of playing the 4 chord as the 4 on its own, or being able to play the transition quite smoothly. So repetitive phrasing is a really useful way to not necessarily meet out your solo or extend it or anything like that. It's a really good way of building tension or intensity in the solo. So you're basically what you want to do is start building a bit of a narrative as you play, and repetitive phrasing is a really good way to start ramping things up. So one phrase that I like to use, which is going to come in handy for 4 chord discussion, is I'm playing the flat 7 to root to the minor 3rd. Yeah. So that's
2 draw whole step bend, 2 draw, 3 draw half step bend.
Is that an absolute pig to play on the harmonica? No? Okay, I don't know. Well, so it's not about speed. Speed is fun. Speed is good once you start developing that technique. But that's not the goal when it comes to repetitive phrasing. It's about building tension. So let's do that pattern. I just want it in triplets, or not even whatever feels nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, let's see what happens when you play that over the 1, 4, and then the 1.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. You get it. So the whole time you're like,
stuffing, dude.
Yeah. So I was like, where's that gonna go? Where's it gonna go? That was building a lot of tension just by that. And also there's a bit of a clash.
Yeah.
There is a clash when you do that, because that's the flat 7 you were talking about. When you change to the 6 instead, your 2 blow. Am I right?
Yes.
So instead of the what whole
2 blow,
two what's the flat 7?
The flat 7.
Yeah.
2 draw whole step bend.
Okay, so instead of the whole step bend, 2 draw whole step bend, you're going to play the 2 blow over the 4, but maintain that rhythm.
So I'm going to play the flat 7 over the 1 chord, and then the 6 over the 4 chord. So I'm going to do over the 1 chord and then over the 4 chord.
Lovely. There's merit in doing either, which after this example we'll talk about.
Cool.
Okay. So ready? Do you want a quick change or?
No, let's do it without a quick change.
Holy wise. All right. 1, 2, 3. That's it, man. Lovely. You followed the change, but you didn't break your momentum in any way. So the merit in doing either one of them, by catering to the change of the 4 chord, you've played something quite tasteful, something a bit more expensive sounding than just sticking to the same thing. By doing that, though, it's a lot more pleasing to the ears, which is a good thing and a bad thing. So the merit you get from not catering to the chord change and sticking to that flat 7 is you're essentially putting these 2 notes together.
That's pretty. That's some pretty guitar there.
And because it clashes, it's the same clash you'll get from playing the blues note. It's the same horrible interval. But because of that it adds tension It's audible tension, which you sometimes really want.
Mhm.
A really nice example for this, I don't know if I mentioned it at the harmonica workshop, but it's something that sparked all of this particular idea. There's a wonderful video of a guitarist called Pat Martino playing with John Scofield, and they cover the tune Sunny. And for about 36 bars, if not longer, Pat Martino plays this. It's relentless.
Easier to do when you don't have to breathe.
Yeah, absolutely true. But he plays that for it must be 4 rounds of that rhythm part. I can't remember how many bars it is. 16, I think. Anyway, that's not really the point. He's just so relentless, and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. He's an incredibly smart musician, so he can play over any chord quite comfortably, and he's got a huge vocabulary. However, he decides to do 3 notes, and the effectiveness of those 3 notes just it puts everything else into context. So there is a lot of merit in creating that tension in sometimes an unpleasant fashion.
Definitely. Also, I think for non-musical listeners, so people who don't play an instrument, that's the thing that tends to get them most excited.
Yeah.
Like I was at the John Mayer gig a couple of weeks ago, and John Mayer is a great guitarist. He's one of my favorite musicians of all time, and he was doing so many super tasteful things that I was like, wow, look what he did, and no one was reacting. And then he did stuff like that, and the first few reps there's no reaction, but when it turns into a motif,
yes,
the crowd start going wild. It's that thing of repetition that really hooks people in. It's like, oh, this is an idea that I have to pay attention to. And that's quite a cool thing to use to your advantage.
Definitely. Let's move on because I'm concerned about time.
Cool.
So repetitive phrasing. Now, something that's important with repetitive phrasing is getting out of it. So we're going to, just on the handout there, we're actually going to jump over to the bit where it's talking about exit strategies. So in a repetitive phrase, such as the one that you were just playing, it's quite simple to get stuck in a loop and end up playing it for 36 bars, which you need to get out of that. And the thing that will make your repetitive lick really effective is how you get out of it. If you are repeating that and end on the root note or anything like that, it becomes uninteresting. The tension is gone. With a whisper, not a shout, So the exit strategy, that's your punctuation. That's the end of your statement, So you want to sort of have a few ideas to get out of your repetitive phrase. I enjoy moving my way back to the root or moving up voicings to sort of, we're also moving towards that climax as well. So moving up your voicings and getting out of your repetitive phrase, you've achieved something by moving, by creating more of that narrative. It's getting more exciting. So as a quick example, I'll do the same repetitive phrase. Yes, please.
What do you want me to do?
12 bars.
Okay.
In G is fine.
Cool.
So I'm out of it. I'm out of that idea. I kept the same tempo going the whole 12 bars, but I found a way out of it and moved up in my register. So I went from that root note up an octave. I don't know how much of that could be applicable right off the mark, but after this, after you've done your repetitive phrases, that's where you want to be loud. Loud and making statements, and you're fast playing doesn't need to happen at this point.
Mhm.
Doesn't need to. So it's more about note choice at the end of your repetitive phrasing. Anyway, that's just something to think about. I'd like to go through work your way through the gears section.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
So we got about 15 minutes.
Excellent. Okay. All righty. So, working your way through the gears. Now, as I've mentioned a few times as we've been talking about phrasing and things like that, you want to develop a narrative in your solo, whether that's playing over 24 bars, an unlimited amount of time. If you don't create a climax in any sort of way, it'll end up just, playing whatever you want right out of the gate, and you'll start running out of ideas. So I'm going to play what you shouldn't do.
Okay.
Can you play a blues in A for me?
In A?
Is that all right?
Yeah. Slow blues?
That's a good example.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. All right.
I'm going to take it from the turnaround.
Yes, please. So, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. I couldn't carry on.
In this situation, the worst thing that can happen is the singer or band leader saying,
"Yeah,
keep going." You're like,
yeah.
Nope.
There's nothing left. I can't make anything more interesting after that. So yeah, you don't want to go right out of the gate with everything that you've got, because you're going to run out of ideas, and it doesn't matter who you are or how good you are. That will happen. How technically proficient, it's not going to help. You've lost any sort of musical quality, and you haven't left space for anything. So by what I just played there, I didn't leave any gaps in my phrasing. It was just on and on and on, which is something that I really enjoy doing. I love playing like that, but I need to get there. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, all right, he can play fast. Great. What does that mean? Nothing. I spent too much time in my bedroom practicing.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is first gear, and we're gonna talk back about relate back to some of the other ideas that we discussed. And the first gear, your opening statements, that should be melodic and sweet. Those sweet notes from Bring It On Home to Me, something like that. There's lots of space. Note choice is super key. It's gonna really intrigue people, pull them in a little bit. So let's go through gear one on you playing harmonica, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So let's go through the melodic mimicry. So Bring It On Home style, not Smoke on the Water. That's the rhythmical one. All right.
Okay.
So we're looking for quality of notes, lots of space, lots of time to breathe.
Good for harmonica.
Yeah. What key?
G.
Okay.
C harmonica.
Okay, and let's do it a bit faster, but swing a bit faster. Well, I'll take it from the turnaround. Okay, that was the perfect example, and I had a lot of Bring It On Home to Me there. Great. Okay, so now you've actually given yourself quite a lot of space to go. You've got other places to go from here. So it would be a perfect time to switch up a gear. So let's move to second gear. Second gear, we want to start getting a bit more exciting with the rhythms.
Okay.
So it can be slightly more complex rhythmically. So let's go from gear 1 to gear 2. So similar sort of thing for gear 1, what you just played. And then for the second 12-bar blues, or rather, the following 12-bar, I want you then to use the Simpsons rhythm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, lots to think about.
Yep, and we're sticking to that tempo,
all right,
so
all right.
I hope you're into it. And 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Was that easy?
It wasn't natural.
Yeah.
It's something I have to think about consciously, and I don't. In this context, I don't normally think, so it's difficult. It's difficult,
But it's new and it's interesting. I liked what you were playing. Okay, so first gear is covered. Sounds great. Some really nice melody in there. Second gear, things were getting a bit more exciting, but there was more. There was more I wanted. So let's go to third gear. So this is where we want to introduce the repetitive phrasing ideas. Now, you've pulled everybody in with your notes. Things got a bit more exciting in gear 2. Hopefully you've got some feet tapping because of all your rhythm. Now we're just going to ramp up the intensity and the tension with repetitive phrases. So we're going 12-bar blues for the first gear, following 12 second gear. Yeah? You get the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're doing three rounds. 3
gears.
Sweet.
And I'll tell you when to change.
All right.
All right?
Are you going to tell me?
All
right.
Actually, that's a point. When we're about to go into the next 12-bar blues, you can introduce the next gear on the turnaround if you want. And it's a nice way to sort of segue in rather than like, okay, we started another 12.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So here we go. Ready? 2, 1, 2, 3. Second gear, please. Third gear. So that was awesome. That was killer, man. All right. So you could have ended there. That is enough phrasing and enough excitement. That was killer.
Too much excitement.
No, not at all. So the fourth and final gear. This is like you've performed a really lovely solo. But now we want to sprinkle it with the magic. And this is where people are like, oh, right, this makes musical sense to my ears. So this time when we go through the gears, in your first gear, your melodic idea, okay, this is you're going to come back to the same idea in your fourth and final gear. So if you can, play something that feels quite familiar melodically. So then when you do come back to it with a lot more intensity and you've gone through all your gears, you can reintroduce those ideas, but with a lot more power. And you've already taken us on a journey, but you're bringing us on home.
All right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So let's give this a go. 4 rounds. You ready? Don't tucker yourself out in gear 3 though.
All right.
All right. And 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, perfect idea. Gear 2, please. Give it to me, man. Bring it on home. That was the perfect example of 4 very well performed gears.
Thanks.
Well done. Okay, and that's kind of it. That's a really good place to start your journey of improvisation. Anyway, I think.
Definitely. I think there are a ton of ideas to work on here, and the main thing to bear in mind when you're learning anything like this, these are all brilliant ideas. Just work on one at a time. So, like personally, I've noticed some big weaknesses in terms of being asked to play something and not finding it comfortable. So I'm going to spend some time doing the rhythmic mimicry. So I'll probably do that for the next month, 6 weeks, and that will, I think that'll start to feel a bit more comfortable, and then I might move on to something else. So think about it like that. This is something that you can work on for a while and really dial in the thing that really captures your attention right now.
The truth is, that you'll never stop working on it. Mm-hmm. I've never stopped working on this, and it doesn't matter what part of your your technique, wherever you are sitting, whether you're a beginner or advanced player, it doesn't matter where you sit in there. All of this applies. Mm-hmm. And obviously, the more you do it, the more exciting it gets, because you're going to get better.
Definitely. Right, we have some questions. Let's have a look at the questions. So George asked Harry earlier, when you exited the repeated lick, did you stay in the same chord, just up an octave?
Yes.
Cool. I'm glad you remember. All right, we've got Jenny, first time attendee. Good to see you, Jenny. All right, so Dirk, great stuff, guys. I'm working on Rolly Platt's Over the Rainbow, and he's doing exactly that gear thing through the song and coming back to the fourth at the end. It makes a lot more sense to me now. So that's a really solid point in terms of thinking about listening to classic standards.
Yeah.
There's a very common motif of you get the head melody. Mm-hmm. So I was bastardizing Summertime a little bit when I was playing my solo, but if you hear that head melody, you'll hear it at the beginning, and depending on how long the improvisation is going to be, you might hear a variation and then a departure, and then right at the end you'll see the band leader doing this, which is a signal to the band to go back to the head. So that's a very classic idea.
It is, but this is an idea that you can use when there isn't a head. You create your own head. Nice. And so you've just made your own song. You've composed your own song within your solo. The fact that you played Summertime is great. You could have changed a few of those notes if you wanted to sound a little bit like Summertime, but it would have been melodically strong enough that when you do come back to it at the end, people will know. And that's exciting.
Definitely. Bob has made a great suggestion saying that Easy would be a good melody with which to go through all the gears. Do you know that tune?
I don't.
Big Walter, so.
Oh, yeah.
that would be
perfect.
a strong melodic mimicry exercise in itself.
Absolutely.
Right. Gina's loving the 4-gear concept. Very cool. Steve says, thank you, Harry and Tom. Great night.
Excellent.
Excellent. John has said, fantastic. It'll take the rest of my lifetime to work on. Us as well.
Yeah. Join the club. It's fun.
Bob has said, very, very interesting and helpful. Excellent. Well, I think that is the hour. So I want to thank you, Harry, for taking the time.
It's my pleasure. Sorry. Thanks so much for listening to me ramble for this time, but it's one of my absolute favorite things to talk about. So thank you so much for having me, and thank you for watching.
No, it was wonderful. Really, really, really pleasurable. And I've learned a lot. And I hope that everyone else has taken at least one thing. I just threw my harmonica down. I'm never playing again. Take one thing away from this and work on it and really go deep. That'd be very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Perry's saying, really interesting and good insights. Thanks. That's good to hear. Very, very interesting and helpful from Bob. Cool.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, everyone. This has been really, really fun. And as with the last seminar, I'm going to do an audio-only version so that you can download that and listen to it in the car or things like that. I think it's helpful to revisit, especially if you've taken an idea and worked on it for a few weeks or a month or so.
Come back to another one.
Definitely. Very cool. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening or day, depending on where you are in the world. And
happy hopping.
Hey, he knows it. Take it easy.